Babes, for anyone watching the video feed right now, yes, we are drinking margaritas. And yes, we are wearing full head-to-toe camouflage.
Honestly, it is the only appropriate attire for the sheer level of absolute mess we are about to unpack today.
Exactly. Because, babes, it just makes sense for this show. We are on the hunt today, so grab your glass, take a sip, and settle in.
And ignore the fact that I already spilled a tiny bit of salsa on my camo. It blends right in. We push through.
We always push through. But before we get into the absolute madness of the week, we have to give the Snark Squad some love.
Oh, absolutely.
Thank you, babes, for choosing to spend time with us wherever you're listening. We wish you nothing but the best, truly. We love you for being here.
We really do. Even when your life choices are, highly questionable, we support your right to make them. Unconditionally. Just ideally, keep it legal.
Yes, please keep it legal. And we have to give a huge, massive shout out to our girl, Shreya Daga. Shreya literally slid into our comments and begged us to cover the Season 2 premiere of The Hunting Party.
And babes, you already know.
Yeah. We are your messy fairy godparents. Ask, and you shall absolutely receive.
Your wish is our command, Shreya. You demanded chaos, and we are delivering it on a silver platter today. With a salted rim, obviously.
Obviously. Oh, and a quick merch update before we spiral. We're currently restocking the storefront.
The postal system is really testing our patience this week.
It really is. So Shreya, Janessa, and Leela, babes, we're so sorry for the delay on your hoodies, but also we still fucking love you, and they are coming.
They are coming. The tracking numbers will be real, which is actually more than I can say for the medical credentials of some people we're about to discuss later.
Oh my God, my heart rate just spikes just thinking about it. But wait, because by the time most of you hear this, it's the weekend.
The best time of the week.
So obviously, it's time for your messy weekend horoscopes.
Bam.
Babes, the stars are perfectly aligned right now for you to make absolute, unmitigated bad decisions over the next 48 hours.
The celestial bodies are basically staging an intervention in reverse. They want you to act out. They demand it.
They literally do. This weekend, the universe is giving you a free pass to flirt with the exact wrong person.
Oh, no.
Yes. I'm talking about the person who leaves your texts on read for 3 days and then replies with just, like, low-tech?
The person who doesn't own a bed frame and has a single folding chair in their living room. That person.
Yes. You are going to ignore all of your adult responsibilities. Do not do your laundry. Let the dishes soak until they develop their own ecosystem.
Just let them soak. They need to marinate.
Exactly. Lean entirely into your main character delusion. You are the star of a messy reality show, and everyone else is just background casting.
I fully endorse this. If you are a Gemini, please double down on the delusion. Just text the X.
Oh my God, text the X.
And if you're a Scorpio, it is definitely time to start a petty argument about something that happened in, 2018. The stars are literally telling you that consequences are an illusion until Monday morning.
Honestly, facts.
Just remember, when reality hits, do not come crying to us. We just read the stars. We don't pay your therapy bills.
Protect your peace, but make it messy. And speaking of protecting our peace, we added dragon fruit to our margaritas today.
It is aggressively pink.
And it is so good. Let's take a quick sip.
Cheers.
Cheers. Oh, wow. Okay. That is actually dangerous.
It goes down way too easy.
It really does. But I need the liquid courage because we need to talk about this TikTok rabbit hole you fell down before coming to the studio today.
Oh my God, yeah.
You texted me a link, and I have not known a moment of peace since. I am unwell.
Look, I was scrolling the threads, looking at the receipts, watching this creator at Xavier Universe. And babes, people in the streets of Atlanta are out here practicing unlicensed dentistry.
I am screaming.
Calling themselves veneer techs. In living rooms, in barbershops, in the back rooms of strip malls.
Unlicensed, untrained, and entirely unbothered.
Literally unbothered.
I am in absolute shock. My jaw is on the floor, but I am terrified to leave it there because someone might try to glue fake chiclets into it. What if happening in Atlanta?
It is a crisis of delusion. How is veneer tech a real sequence of words? It's not. That's the point.
It is literally a made-up job.
You are either a licensed dentist or you are a person committing a crime. There is no in-between, and the audacity is staggering.
I can't.
So I looked at the actual court documents. The main guy orchestrating this, his name is Brandon Dillard. This man is catching actual Georgia RICO charges.
RICO. Wait, as in the Racketeer Influenced and Corrupt Organizations Act, like the mafia.
Exactly like the mafia. RICO charges are meant for organized crime syndicates, for mob bosses, for sweeping criminal enterprises that cross state lines.
And they are using it on a fake dentist.
Yes. The state of Georgia is using it on a fake dentist. The indictment lists 113 counts against this man.
113. That is a CBS receipt of crimes. How do you even rack up 113 counts of fake dentistry?
Let me break down the exact mechanism of these charges, because it highlights just how sociopathic this operation was.
Please, I need to know.
He caught one count of violating the Georgia REC Act, which means he wasn't just doing this alone. He built a structured enterprise around it. Then, 54 counts of theft by deception.
Because he was lying to them about his credentials. He was taking their money under the false pretense that he was a medical professional.
Exactly. In Georgia, theft by deception means you obtained property or money by deceitful means.
Yeah.
He created a total facade of medical authority. But here's where it gets terrifying.
I am bracing myself.
He caught 24 counts of practicing dentistry without a license, 2 counts of practicing medicine without a license, and 21 counts of battery.
Battery. Oh my God, my chest hurts.
It is wild.
Because if you think about it legally, if a doctor cuts you open, it's surgery. But if a random guy on the street cuts you open, it's a stabbing.
Exactly.
So drilling into someone's skull without a medical license is literal physical assault.
You nailed it.
Yeah.
When you undergo a medical procedure, you sign an informed consent form. But you cannot legally consent to a surgical procedure performed by an unlicensed layperson. Therefore, every time he picked up a drill, every time he altered the physical structure of someone's teeth, he was committing an act of battery. And we haven't even touched on the 6 counts of possession of dangerous drugs.
What was he giving them? You can't just buy dental anesthesia at a grocery store.
No, you definitely cannot.
Was he buying black market lidocaine? Was he using street drugs to numb their gums? This is terrifying.
The specifics are still coming out, but to perform the kind of invasive procedures required for veneers, like actually filing down the natural enamel, you need serious local anesthetics.
Yeah, you have to be totally numb for that.
Right. And if you inject anesthetics incorrectly, or if you use the wrong dosage, you can trigger cardiac arrest, severe nerve damage, or anaphylaxis. He was playing Russian roulette with people's central nervous systems.
I am feeling physically sick.
And he's scammed over $4 million doing it.
$4 million? Stop it right now. Do you know what I could do with $4 million?
You would buy a bunker.
I would buy a bunker. I would not be in a back room in Atlanta performing highly illegal mouth renovations. Why are people doing this?
It is wild.
What is the psychological drive that makes a person let a random man with an Instagram account sand down their actual functioning teeth?
It's a tragic intersection of the current economic reality and our cultural obsession with the Instagram aesthetic. People are desperate for that blindingly white, perfectly uniform, wealthy smile.
Right, the influencer teeth.
Exactly. But real dental work, like porcelain veneers done by a board-certified prosthodontist, costs thousands of dollars per tooth. It's wildly inaccessible for the average person.
So expensive.
So these scammers swoop in offering deals. They prey on cosmetic insecurity and financial desperation. It's the exact same pathology driving the black market for fake BBLs or industrial-grade silicone lip fillers.
It is literal danger. We are talking about massive systemic infections. We are talking about irreversible nerve damage.
Yes.
If you shave down a tooth improperly, you expose the dentin, you expose the pulp, the root dies. Your jawbone can quite literally rot away.
And there are accounts of people whose gums have turned black from necrosis because these techs are just gluing giant unified blocks of acrylic over the natural teeth.
No, stop.
They leave no room to floss. Food and bacteria just fester underneath the fake teeth until the natural tooth structure completely disintegrates.
I am spiraling. There was a comment on that TikTok thread about someone whose cousin literally died from complications after an unlicensed tooth procedure.
I saw that.
The infection traveled straight from her mouth to her brain or her heart. Died, leaving kids behind over fake teeth.
The proximity of the oral cavity to the brain makes dental infections incredibly lethal if left untreated. This guy should have taken a fraction of that $4 million and gone to a legitimate dental school.
Literally.
He clearly had the dexterity and the business acumen. But no. The ego required to just wake up one day, buy a drill off Amazon and say, I'm a dentist now, is truly frightening.
It is entirely sociopathic.
Yes.
Honestly, if we ever needed to track someone down, this would be the easiest hunt in the world.
Oh, for sure.
We wouldn't need a federal task force.
No, we could just follow a trail of bleeding gums and blindingly white, completely uniform, Terrifying smiles to the ends of the earth. You just look for the people whose teeth reflect UV light from a mile away.
A literal breadcrumb trail of infected chiclets. I can't. It's too much. I need to pivot before I start hyperventilating. Because speaking of unchecked delusion and people who think the rules of society don't apply to them, let's talk about the main event.
Yes. Let's get into the actual psychological warfare.
We are officially investigating The Hunting Party Season 2, Episodes 1 and 2. And let me just put it on the record right now. I am emotionally compromised.
You've been screaming about this all week.
I am unwell. Because the fallout from the Season 1 finale, Oliver Odell, he bled out. He actually died.
They did not hold back.
I thought for sure it was going to be a television fake-out. I thought we were going to open the season with him in a medically induced coma, and we'd get these soft, emotional scenes of Bex holding his hand in the ICU.
That would be the standard network procedural route.
Right. But no, he is in the ground.
The showrunners made a massive, definitive statement with that choice. They said, "You thought we were playing by network procedural rules. We are not."
They really didn't.
Taking Oliver off the board permanently elevates the stakes for the entire season. It removes Bex's emotional anchor.
I am in theatrical mourning for Bex. Melissa Roxburgh is acting her absolute heart out this season. Bex is spiraling. She's deeply traumatized. And honestly, the way she chooses to cope is so incredibly toxic.
It is extremely toxic.
But from a dramatic standpoint, it is iconic.
It is the definition of unhinged behavior. Most people who experience that level of profound grief take a leave of absence. They go to a grief counselor, they sit in their house and stare at the wall.
Normal people, yes.
What does Bex do? She blackmails the Attorney General of the United States.
At Oliver's actual gravesite, that scene was a cinematic masterpiece.
It was very dramatic.
The wind blowing, the dark trench coats, the open grave. Bex essentially corners Elizabeth Mallory and says, "I have the receipts on every illegal, horrific thing happening in the pit, and if you do not reinstate my team right now, I will burn this entire classified government operation to the ground."
It was a power move.
While standing over the dirt of the man she loves.
It was a tactical masterclass in leveraging vulnerability. Mallory had absolutely no leverage in that situation. You do not corner a highly trained federal agent who is actively grieving and literally has nothing left to lose.
Nothing.
A person with nothing to lose is the most dangerous person in the room. Bex weaponized her own tragedy.
It was so effective. But wait, while Bex is out there making these massive, dark power moves, we have to talk about the absolute most psychotic behavior in this entire episode.
Well, I know exactly where you're going with this.
And I am not even talking about the serial killers yet.
No, I know, because I was scrolling the Reddit threads for this episode, specifically the television subreddits.
Yeah.
And the entire internet is in a collective uproar over Shane.
Shane Florence. Our sweet, pure, sharpshooting Shane. He ordered a cheese pizza, and then he pulled a bottle of ketchup out of his fridge, and he squeezed a massive puddle of ketchup onto his slice.
It is a culinary hate crime.
I am sick.
The threads were ablaze. Someone commented, "This guy is a dormant psychopath." Another person legitimately argued that the show should be canceled for broadcasting that visual without a trigger warning.
I felt visceral disgust. My stomach literally turned ketchup on a pizza.
It makes no sense.
The tomatoes are already in the marinara sauce. Ketchup is entirely sugar and vinegar. It has zero Italian flavor profile. Honestly, this is a bigger forensic red flag than half the monsters they hunt.
If we look at it analytically, the lack of a developed palate, the desire to mask complex flavors with high fructose corn syrup and vinegar, it speaks to a very specific kind of emotional immaturity.
Yeah.
Or, if you want to be dramatic, a lack of sensory empathy.
If I was on a date with a guy and we ordered a pizza and he reached for the Heinz 57, I am excusing myself to the bathroom, climbing out the window and calling the FBI. I am running for the hills.
Someone on the thread argued that pineapple on pizza is worse, and I had to forcefully disagree. Pineapple is a heated debate about the intersection of sweet and savory. Ketchup on pizza is a symptom of severe emotional disturbance.
It is. It really is. But, okay, speaking of severe emotional disturbance, we have to talk about the boogeyman.
Oh, Ron Sims?
Episode 1 introduces us to Ron Sims, played by Eric McCormack. And I have to say, seeing Will from Will and Grace playing a terrifying skin-crawling predator completely blew my mind.
It was brilliant casting against type. And using his actual son, Finnegan McCormack, to play the younger version of him in the flashbacks was a stroke of genius.
Wait, that was his real son?
Yes, actually. It kept the physical mannerisms and the cadence perfectly consistent across the timelines.
That is amazing trivia. But his M.O., I was freaking out. He breaks into women's homes, hides under their beds, and then injects them with a paralytic so they can't move.
It's horrifying.
And then he just plays house with them while they slowly die of organ failure. It is my literal worst nightmare.
The mechanics of what he is doing are terrifying. He's likely using something like a non-depolarizing neuromuscular blocking agent.
Okay, doctor, explain.
These drugs block the neurotransmitters at the neuromuscular junction. It paralyzes the skeletal muscles, including the diaphragm.
So you can't breathe.
Exactly. But here is the truly terrifying part. Paralytics do not affect the central nervous system's consciousness or pain reception.
No.
The victims are entirely awake. They can hear him, they can see him, they can feel everything, but they cannot move a single muscle, and they cannot scream.
That is so dark.
They are prisoners inside their own bodies while they slowly suffocate.
It is artificially induced locked-in syndrome. Why would someone do that? What is the psychology behind wanting a partner who is essentially a living statue?
They break down his backstory perfectly in the episode. He grew up with a severely alcoholic mother. When she was sober, she was abusive and dismissive.
Right, she was horrible to him.
But when she would get blackout drunk, she was completely immobilized. She was physically incapable of pushing him away. And for a young Ron, that was the only time she was pliant enough for him to cuddle her and feel a twisted, artificial sense of affection.
So his developing brain equated physical paralysis with safety. He equated absolute immobility with unconditional love. It is so messed up.
It's a complete corruption of attachment theory. An infant needs a secure base to explore the world. Ron's secure base was a comatose woman. He recreated that dynamic with his victims because his fear of rejection was so catastrophic that he had to physically remove their ability to leave him.
It makes sense.
But the tragic irony of the show is that his time in the pit, the secret government prison, actually made him a more functional and therefore far more dangerous predator.
Yes. Dr. Charles and his animal-assisted therapy. Dr. Charles was treating Ron with rabbits.
The bunny therapy.
Letting this man, who is terrified of rejection, hold soft, gentle bunnies to learn how to be intimate without forcing immobility. And the sick part is, the therapy actually worked on a surface level. It gave Ron confidence.
Exactly.
So when the pit blew up and he escaped, he wasn't just a recluse hiding under beds anymore.
He evolved. He goes on a speed dating app called Matchymaker under the alias Mitch.
Matchymaker. I was screaming at my television. This man is a 12-time murderer, and he is out here swiping right.
Just out in the dating pool.
And he is charming. He matches with 4 women at the event, and he takes Debbie Bolton out on a date. He pours wine, he's polite, he seems like a normal, slightly awkward guy who loves animals.
He perfected the nice guy facade. But this is where we see the sheer magnitude of his ego and delusion.
Oh my God, yes. Because he takes Debbie back to his place and things are going well. What does a normal person do? Put on a rom-com, put on some music.
Anything but what he did.
No, Ron turns on the TV and shows her a true crime documentary about his own murders.
It's so unhinged.
He literally sits there, expecting her to look at the screen, see the monster he was, and then turn to him and say, I accept you anyway. Your past doesn't define you, Mitch. Who does that?
A textbook narcissist who has confused clinical therapy speak with reality. He spent years in the pit hearing that he was making progress. He internalized that to mean his past crimes were just quirky character flaws that he had overcome.
Quirky character flaws. 12 bodies.
The cognitive dissonance is staggering. And when Debbie, as any rational human being would do, absolutely panics and rejects him, Ron immediately regresses. The ego cannot sustain the injury of rejection, so he resorts to the paralytic.
Thank God Bex and the team get there in time to save Debbie. But babes, we have to talk about the climax of the episode. The bunny barn.
It was high camp mixed with genuine terror.
Ron captures Bex, and he takes her to this massive barn, and the barn is just filled with roaming rabbits, just hundreds of bunnies hopping everywhere.
So many rabbits.
And in the middle of it all, Dr. Charles, the esteemed government therapist from the pit, is being held hostage, and Ron has forced him to wear a giant plush bunny suit.
It was incredibly absurd, but if you look at it through Ron's fractured psyche, it makes perfect sense. The animal therapy room was his safe space in the pit. It was the only place he felt regulated.
Okay, true.
So in a moment of extreme stress, he recreated it. He forced Dr. Charles to embody the literal manifestation of his comfort object, And then he demands that Bex record a new documentary, a video stating for the public record that he is a changed man.
The absolute delusion of this man, but Bex isn't playing. She stalls, she manipulates his need for connection, and then she snaps. When the fight breaks out, Bex gets the upper hand, and she literally has Ron by the throat.
He was losing it.
She is choking the life out of him, and you can see it in her eyes. Melissa Roxburgh played it so well. She is taking all of her grief, all of her overwhelming rage over all of her bleeding out, and she is projecting it directly onto Ron.
She was absolutely going to kill an unarmed suspect. It was a fatal execution of force, completely outside the bounds of any FBI protocol. If Shane and Hassani hadn't boosted into that barn and physically pulled her off of him, Bex would have caught a murder charge.
She was pushed to the edge.
It shows you exactly how compromised her mental state is.
I am going to defend Bex here. Her instinct to end the threat was completely justified. Think about it. You are sitting in a barn, surrounded by rabbits, with a man who injects women with paralytics so they suffocate while awake.
I mean, yes, it's a high-stress situation.
And you just lost the love of your life to this exact same world of violence. Her instinct wasn't a failure, it was pure survival. It was her nervous system screaming, "End the threat before it takes anyone else from me." I will defend her messy trauma responses forever.
You can defend the emotional reality of it, but trauma responses do not hold up well in an Office of Professional Responsibility review. An agent who cannot regulate their nervous system in the field is a liability to the team, period.
You are so analytical and cold. But fine, before we get into the whole debate on instincts, we have to unpack episode 2, Adrian Gallo. Because if you thought the paralyzing was bad, this was pure, unadulterated body horror.
Oh, the acrylic resin.
I cannot even think about it without my skin crawling. Adrian Gallo is a killer who encases his victims alive in acrylic resin to preserve their beauty.
It is brutal.
That opening scene where the victim wakes up inside a literal glass box and the clear resin is slowly rising around his legs, and he looks over and sees other boxes filled with reptiles and animals that suffered the exact same fate. I had to watch it through my fingers.
It is scientifically horrifying. If we break down the logistics of casting a living human in resin, it is an agonizing way to die.
Don't tell me. Wait, tell me.
Acrylic resin requires a two-part mixture, the resin itself and a hardener or catalyst. When you mix them, it triggers a massive exothermic chemical reaction.
Exothermic meaning it gets super hot.
Extremely hot. Depending on the volume of the resin being poured, the curing process can reach temperatures that will cause severe, deep tissue chemical burns.
Oh my God.
So the victim isn't just trapped, they are literally being boiled alive by the liquid surrounding them. And as the resin cures and hardens, it compresses the chest cavity. The victim cannot expand their lungs.
The hub.
They die of a combination of thermal shock, asphyxiation, and toxic fume inhalation.
That is the most horrific thing I have ever heard. And he started by doing this to bugs and spiders. But when his mother's health declined and she died, the trauma pushed him over the edge. He wanted to preserve beauty forever to honor her, which transitioned his focus from lizards to living human beings.
And his treatment in the pit did not rehabilitate him in the slightest.
Yeah.
We have to talk about the government handlers running the pit because they are arguably worse than the killers they house.
Yes. Dr. Charles.
Who?
Let's remember, we just saw humiliated in a bunny suit. He was running this psychological experiment on Adrian called the Immersive Accountability Technique, IAT.
It was pure, unfiltered psychological torture. Dr. Charles forced Adrian to sit in a sterile room for years, surrounded by screens playing loops of his crimes. But the real torture was that the doctor systematically smashed Adrian's human resin art right in front of him.
It's so messed up.
Neurologically, what Dr. Charles was doing was flooding Adrian's amygdala with extreme sensory stimuli while systematically destroying the physical manifestations of his coping mechanism.
Yeah, that doesn't sound like therapy.
He wasn't trying to heal Adrian's attachment to the resin. He was trying to shatter his psyche completely to see what would happen.
It just makes them crazier. But honestly, all of the science and the torture pales in comparison to the guest star of this episode. When I saw the screen, I lost my actual mind. Niecy Nash Betts.
An absolute legend, Niecy Nash Betts elevates every single project she touches.
She does. She plays Erica Burke. Erica was a detective, the former partner of Jack Whalen, a cop that Adrian supposedly killed years ago before he was locked in the pit. Bex and the team bring Erica in because she knows the case file better than anyone, and she understands Adrian's methodology.
She was the perfect asset.
And Erica is brilliant. She immediately sees right through the team's fake aliases. She only agrees to help if she gets full, unfettered access to the active investigation.
She positioned herself perfectly. She used her status as a grieving former partner to bypass protocol. And the scenes where she and Bex bond over losing their partners were incredible.
They really were.
Erica talking about the overwhelming, suffocating grief of losing Jack, and Bex finally feeling safe enough to open up about Oliver. It felt so genuine. It was an exploration of the shared trauma of women in law enforcement losing their anchors.
It was beautiful. I was crying. I was literally screaming at the screen. Yes, Bex, trust her. Let her be your new mentor. You need a mother figure right now. And then the twist.
The ultimate, devastating betrayal of trust.
I gasped so loud, my neighbor probably heard me. The Reddit threads were losing their absolute minds. Erica Burke wasn't just a grieving cop hunting her partner's killer. She was the killer. She was a copycat.
The reveal was brilliantly paced. The team realizes that Adrian didn't kill his last 3 victims. Erica did. Adrian had killed random people, civilians, but he never killed Detective Jack Whalen.
No, Erica did. And the motive. Because Jack wanted to retire, Jack wanted to leave the police force, and Erica's abandonment issues were so incredibly severe, she couldn't handle the thought of him leaving her alone every day.
It's unhinged.
So what does she do? She uses Adrian's exact methodology. She encases her own partner in resin.
It is the darkest manifestation of abandonment anxiety imaginable. I like to think of it as psychological amber.
Oh, wow.
She couldn't handle the natural flow of time, the inevitability of change and separation, so she trapped a moment in time forever. If she couldn't have him alive as her partner, she would preserve him as a statue so he could never leave.
Psychological amber, that is exactly what it is. But the worst part is, once she crossed that line, she couldn't stop. She developed a taste for it.
She had 13 bodies stuffed inside the walls of her house.
13! How big is this house? How did no one smell the curing acrylic? I have so many logistical questions about the structural integrity of drywall holding up massive blocks of resin.
Right. The weight alone would be crazy.
I don't even care, though, because the drama was so good.
The sheer audacity of Erica thinking she could go to a hotel room and team up with Adrian. Adrian, the original creator of this method, immediately figures it out. He realizes they are the same.
He knew immediately.
But Erica isn't interested in a partnership. She's tying up loose ends. The resulting shootout at Erica's place was phenomenal television.
It was. Niecy Nash Betts wielding a shotgun in her own living room. And then the ultimate poetic justice. Erica turns on Adrian, and when the FBI team finally breaches the house, they find Adrian Gallo dead, encased in his own resin. Erica did it to him. She out-resined the resin killer.
It was a messy, glorious bloodbath. In the final moments, with Erica fighting Bex to the bitter end, warning Bex that if you do this job long enough, if you stare into the abyss, the darkness will eventually find you.
That gave me chills.
Erica dies in the shootout, but those words are going to haunt Bex for the rest of the season.
Absolutely chilling. Okay, we have fully unpacked the receipts. We know the crimes. We know the science. Now we need to look at the bigger picture. When we step back and look at these 2 episodes, a major theme emerges. Who is actually the hunter and who is the hunted? Who is in control of this entire chaotic operation and who is just scrambling for their lives?
It's the core tension of the series, isn't it? The power dynamics are constantly shifting and the roles are fluid.
I look at Bex right now. Is Bex hunting these killers, or is her own trauma and grief hunting her? On paper, she is the lead investigator. She's the hunter.
Yes, theoretically.
But emotionally, she is scrambling. She is using her anger over Oliver to mask her pain. Choking Ron Sims wasn't a tactical, calculated move. It was an emotional explosion. She is the hunted, and her own mind is the predator chasing her down.
I see your point about Bex's internal struggle.
Yeah.
She is definitely losing the battle against her own psychological demons. But if we pull back and look at the macro level, the real power play is happening in the corporate bureaucratic mess of the government handlers.
Ugh, Mallory.
Attorney General Mallory thought she was the ultimate hunter. She thought she had Bex on a leash, even with the blackmail at the grave. But then, enter Colonel Eve Lazarus.
Oh my God, Lazarus. She just swoops in out of nowhere in the middle of a briefing.
Exactly. Lazarus overthrows Mallory completely. She essentially fires the sitting Attorney General from the task force. And the most terrifying part, Lazarus has absolutely zero military record.
Literally a ghost.
Morales digs into her background, and she is a complete ghost. It's as if she doesn't exist on paper. To have that level of classified clearance, the ability to dismiss a high-ranking government official without any oversight, Lazarus is the ultimate hunter. Everyone else, Bex and Mallory included, are just pawns on her board.
But wait, pushback. What about the killers themselves? They absolutely believe they are the apex predators. Look at Erica.
Okay, let's look at Erica.
She infiltrated an active FBI investigation, manipulated a traumatized agent, and literally hunted the original serial killer, Adrian, and turned him into an art project. She completely outsmarted the government for years. She thought she was untouchable.
That's exactly the illusion, though. The killers think they are the hunters, but their pathology makes them desperate and sloppy. They are governed by instinct and ego, which inevitably leads to their downfall.
I mean, true.
Erica got caught because her ego required her to keep 13 bodies inside her own home instead of dumping them somewhere untraceable. Ron got caught because his ego convinced him that a speed dating app was a viable way to find a hostage who would unconditionally love him.
Right.
Their mental illness is a leash that the FBI eventually yanks. The true predators are the ones who built the pit in the first place.
Right.
The government sanctioned the torture of these inmates to see what would happen. They manufactured worse monsters.
I hate that you're right because it is so incredibly dark. The government is the actual monster. Which leads us perfectly into the debate of instincts versus ego. Are the decisions we are seeing being made smartly or purely emotionally? I am calling out Erica Burke right now.
The floor is yours. Break her down.
Erica's initial decision to preserve Jack in Resin, that was pure emotional abandonment. She panicked. Her instinct was to hold on to him. But everything after that,
Yeah, the 12 bodies.
keeping 13 bodies in the walls of your living room, actively inserting yourself into a federal task force, going to a hotel room to meet the original serial killer and thinking you could outsmart him, that is pure, unadulterated ego.
Absolutely.
She thought she was smarter than everyone in the room because she wore a badge. Her ego got her killed.
I completely agree. And if we look at Ron Sims, his ego is arguably even more fragile and destructive. Going to a speed dating event is an ego play. You are actively seeking external validation.
Yes.
But taking a woman back to your apartment and showing her a true crime documentary about your own atrocities, fully expecting her to look past the murder and love you for you, that requires a level of narcissism that is hard to even comprehend.
It's delusional.
You genuinely believe his growth was so profound that it erased a double-digit body count. It's the ultimate delusion.
It's the exact same delusion as the fake dentist in Atlanta. Believing that your desire for an outcome overrides the reality of the harm you are causing.
Precisely. Now, we debated this before we started recording, but we have to bring it back to Bex. Because you defended her earlier, but I still maintain that Bex choking Ron was a massive failure of ego and emotional regulation.
Here we go. I am ready.
She is a highly trained federal agent. Her instinct, drilled into her over years of training, should be to secure the target, gather intel, and neutralize the threat non-lethally if possible.
Well, yes, in a textbook.
Instead, she let her personal grief override her training. She nearly committed murder in front of her entire team because her ego demanded vengeance for Oliver. It was an emotional reaction that almost cost her her career.
I'm going to push back on this again, and I will defend her messy trauma responses forever. When you are in an enclosed space with a predator who you know paralyzes women and you have actively been marinating in grief, that is not ego. That is the amygdala taking over.
Right, but an agent should be able to control that.
The rational brain shuts down and the survival brain kicks in. It's not about vengeance. It's about eliminating a threat that your brain perceives as catastrophic.
I appreciate this psychological defense, but again, survival brain doesn't look great on an incident report.
You are insufferable. Okay, let's make this personal. Let's insert ourselves into this chaotic scenario. The pit has broken open. Killers are loose in the world. The government recruits us. What role are you taking on the team? Are you the leader, the tracker?
Oh, I am absolutely claiming the role of the tracker.
Yeah.
But let me be perfectly clear. I am doing absolutely zero physical running.
I figure as much.
Do not put me in a Kevlar vest. Do not hand me a flashlight. And do not tell me to breach a bunny barn. I will simply not be doing that.
No running. How are you tracking them? Are you using psychic vibes?
I will track these killers purely from a climate-controlled room by analyzing their messy digital footprints. Serial killers, as we just discussed, are inherently narcissists. They want to be seen.
True.
I would be tracking their IP addresses on Matchy-Make. Do you know how hard it is to buy massive quantities of industrial-grade acrylic resin without leaving a digital footprint? I would find the local hardware store owner complaining on Yelp about the weird guy buying out their entire stock of casting molds and demanding a discount. That's how I catch them. I find the digital breadcrumbs of their logistical failures.
That is actually terrifyingly accurate. You would sit there with an iced coffee, scrolling Yelp, and catch a serial killer before lunch.
I really would. It's about working smarter, not harder.
Yeah.
What about you? What is your tactical role?
I'm confessing right now to you and to the Snark Squad. I would be the ultimate chaos agent on the team. I would be an active liability.
Say more. Validate my deepest fears.
I would probably accidentally match with one of the killers on Matchy Maker. I would be swiping. I'd see Mitch. I'd see a picture of him holding a cute little rabbit, and I'd be like, oh, an animal lover. How sweet. He seems deeply sensitive.
Oh my God.
I would ignore all of the red flags because the banter in the chat was good.
You absolutely would. You would text me from the date saying he's a little intense about his mom, but he really listens to me.
I would. And then I'd end up needing the entire federal task force to come rescue me from a farm equipment shed. Do you remember when we went to that true crime podcast convention 2 years ago, and I literally got us lost in the underground parking garage for 45 minutes because I was convinced that I remembered a shortcut?
I vividly remember. We were walking in circles in a subterranean concrete tomb. You were tracking the smell of a hot dog vendor, not the location of our rental car. Your survival instincts are geared entirely towards snacks and vibes.
Exactly. If I am in the field, I am causing a distraction. I am tripping over an extension cord and accidentally unplugging the killer's intricate death trap. I am surviving purely on sheer dumb luck and main character delusion.
Well, thank God we have microphones and not badges. The Republic is safer this way.
Truly. Okay, let's put our tinfoil hats on. It is time for Snark Squad Conspiracy Corner. We are throwing out our wildest, most unhinged theories about what is really going on behind the scenes of the hunting party. Give me your most toxic theory.
Right, I'm dropping a bomb. Let's talk about Morales.
Sweet, brilliant, tech genius Morales.
She is not as sweet as she looks. We know she is secretly acting as a mole for A.G. Mallory. We saw her recording the team. But my theory, Morales is a triple agent.
No way.
She isn't just playing the team for Mallory. I think she's playing Mallory for someone else entirely. Morales is too intelligent, too calculating to tie her ship to an attorney general who is clearly losing control of narrative. I think Morales is gathering blackmail on everyone. Bex, Mallory, Lazarus, and she's going to leverage it to take over the entire operation.
I strongly emotionally disagree. I completely reject this narrative. I am defending Morales to the death.
You are blinded by her innocent face and her cardigans.
No. She is just the younger sister of the group. She got blackmailed by Mallory. She got caught in the bureaucratic crossfire, and she is way over her head. She looked at Shane and Bex with actual tears in her eyes when she was recording them.
Fake tears.
She loves them. She is not a Machiavellian triple agent. She is a victim of corporate government bullying.
Time will tell. But speaking of Shane, let's talk about Colonel Lazarus. We agree on this part, right?
Yes. Oh my God, the Reddit threads were buzzing about this. Lazarus has no military record. She is a ghost. And what was Shane doing in episode 1? He was investigating his mother's identity through the classified pit tapes. Connect the dots.
Is Lazarus Shane's mother?
I am screaming. It makes so much sense. Why else would a highly classified ghost operative suddenly swoop in and take over the exact task force her son is serving on? She wants to control him. She wants to watch him.
It would perfectly explain her ghost record. If she was deep cover or running illegal black site operations like the Pit for decades, the government would erase her history. If she is Shane's mother, the psychological damage that is going to inflict on him when he finds out, it will completely break the team's trust in leadership.
It will destroy him. But wait, I have a theory that spirals even further. I am thinking about the HR department of the Pit.
The HR department?
People running the therapies. Dr. Charles. We saw him in the bunny suit, looking pathetic and victimized. But what if Dr. Charles is the real mastermind villain of the entire series?
Walk me through the logic.
Think about the mechanisms of what he was doing. He was running animal-assisted therapy on Ron Sims, which, as we established, gave Ron the confidence to date and kill more effectively.
Okay, try.
He was running the immersive accountability technique on Adrian Dallow, smashing his art and literally rewiring his amygdala through torture until his psyche shattered completely. Dr. Charles wasn't trying to rehabilitate these men. He was conducting illegal psychological warfare experiments. He was creating worse monsters just to see what the human mind could withstand.
That is actually a terrifying and highly plausible theory. The Pit wasn't a prison, it was a behavioral laboratory. And Dr. Charles was the mad scientist calibrating the monsters. And now that the Pit has blown open and they are out, he gets to see his experiments perform in the real world.
Yes. He is the puppet master. Oh my God, I have goosebumps. The conspiracy goes so deep.
We are going to be tracking every single receipt as this season goes on.
My heart rate is finally returning to normal, which means we have survived another chaotic investigation. But before we sign off, I just keep thinking about what you said about the pit being a laboratory. Because if a fictional government is using trauma to build better predators on television, it makes you wonder, how many real-world institutions are doing the exact same thing right now under the guise of rehabilitation? Are we fixing people, or are we just making them more dangerous?
That is the million-dollar question, and it's why we always tell you to keep your eyes open.
Thank you to the Snark Squad for hanging out with us, for drinking with us, and for spiraling with us today.
We appreciate your dedication to the mess. Please remember to share this discussion with your messiest friend, the one who loves a good true crime spiral. And drop us a rating and a review. It feeds our egos, which we have already established are very important.
Leave 5 stars and tell us if you would have survived the bunny barn. Babes, I am looking at us right now. We started out in full camouflage, sipping dragon fruit margaritas, talking about unlicensed street dentists performing Araiko-level crimes in Atlanta, and we ended up investigating 13 bodies stuffed inside a wall and a grown, educated doctor forced into a plush bunny suit. And honestly,
Nailed it.
we absolutely nailed it. I love you, babes. Stay savage, stay observant, and we will see you on the Snark side.